Hello, welcome to the 10th episode of the 9th series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today with us, surfboard shaper Ryan Lovelace. We discuss with him about hand shaping surfboards, surfers, and much more. Hi Ryan, welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Today I am luckily I'm in Hawaii.
How is the surf right now?
The surf is horrible right now. It's really big, really brown, really chunky, but it's been fun for a couple days before this, and it'll be fun on a couple days after it. And they just it's kind of the remnants of the storm that they just ran off of the pipe masters here. So it's just kind of tapped out right now.
So it's a perfect day for an interview.
Yeah, it's a perfect day. We drove to the other side of the island to get groceries, and now we'll do this. So perfect.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that. Today we're going to talk about a lot of things. Of course, we're going to talk about hand shaping, surfboards. But the first question that I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
Oh man, what a big question. I think if you're not deriving joy from your surfing, I don't quite understand why you would be doing it, I guess. So I think, just making sure that you're connected to the part of surfing that you went there for, like just stay tapped into the enjoyment that you get out of it. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what we're doing. There's a million reasons to surf, but I always feel like if enjoyment and happiness isn't part of it, then...
No, it's true. It's true. But a lot of people like that find it difficult to find joy in surfing. First maybe the one that inevitably they're bringing their problems in the lineup, and maybe they're not like the best buddies ever. Or what I heard with the podcast is that pro surfers, at a certain point, they lose to have that joy because it becomes like a sport, and they don't find that joy anymore, and then for a reason or another they quit at any level of surfing, right? So
I think for anything that you make that you make into your job that started as a passion, you risk hitting that point. Anyone that take surfing out of it, put anything else in its place, and you have the same risk. And like, I think the key is a lot of people, if you're looking at competition in specific, like a lot of people get that joy from competing, right? Like they're competitive people by nature, and that's where the joy comes from. So if that's what you love to do, like by all means, go nuts, do it. It just may not be for everybody else, and that's all cool. So, but it is, and it is hard when surfing's part of your everyday life, and you just got off work and you've got an hour before you got to get home and do whatever you're supposed to do for your family or other people. And you just got a small window. It can be hard to like check your problems at the door and go just be a great, smiley, happy person in the water. But you got to try a little bit, or at least keep yourself in check and reality check yourself if you were that guy for a day or two or whatever. But it's an emotional thing. Surfing's an emotional thing, no matter which way you look at it. So you just do your best.
Yeah,
but you keep coming back to that point. That's the hope, I guess.
I agree with you. So going to surfboards, what was your first surfboard? And if perhaps, do you still have it?
I wish. So let's see. My first surfboard that I technically owned was my brother and my board together, and I do still own it. I grew up in Seattle. The first time that I even saw, I think, a real surfboard in Seattle was at a garage sale next to my dad's. He has I guess you call it a studio. It was like an art printing press. And the guy next door was having a garage sale, and he had like this, it's like a full like 80s thruster, like 6'9" step up, like North Shore gun. And my brother and he wanted $100 for it. And so my dad said that if we found all of the change that we could in the house, which he had this huge jar of change from the end of his day, he just dumped his pocket change in the jar. And so he basically said, if we can go through that, count it, put it in the little paper rolls, And if it makes $100, we can go use it to buy that board. So we bought it together, and I do still have that one. Yeah.
Wow. I like the idea of going through these all changes for the stock of getting a board.
Yeah, it worked really well. And now, of course, I see myself gathering change, but I need a big jar to put it in like he had. He had it figured out.
It's like the water tank, right? You put
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. It was, maybe it was, I remember when I was little, I remember it being huge, like huge, like 10 gallons. But then I found it when he passed away. We found the jar in his storage, and it was like maybe like a 2 gallon, water container. Like it was small. And I was like, holy shit, like not nearly as big as I remembered, but it had $100 worth of change in it. So
Wow,
that's
that's good. And in Seattle, if I remember, there is like a wave pool or something like that, right?
I don't think there is. I always wish that there was. There's so much flat water around there. Like it's all surrounded by water on all sides, but it's all like inland waterways and lakes. So you're about an hour to 3 hours somewhere in there to like the nearest like surfable wave. So I remember just driving around wanting to surf all the time. Be going to a dinner at a friend's house or something and drive across one of the bridges and just staring at all the flat water and just be like, man, I wish there was a wave, or I wish there was some way you could make a wave in that. And at that point, it's early 90s or whatever, wave pool technology wasn't what it is today. So I'm pretty fascinated by all the standing waves and all the wave pools and all the different techniques that are coming out now. It's pretty cool. I still haven't gotten to surf one, but I'm fascinated.
Because I remember that when I had the interview with Tom Carroll, he was telling me that at a certain point in that time in the tour, they went to that was memory. My memory tells me Seattle, but maybe it's wrong. Where it
I
was
wonder,
like wave.
maybe they would have had one back in the day for a little while. I wonder, or it
You
could have been. I'll look into it. I don't know. I never heard of it. Man, if that existed when I was a kid, I would have. Oh my god.
I will listen to that. I will listen to that interview once again, and if it's Seattle, I will let you know. Nevertheless, there was a stop on the pool, and like he was telling me that they saw all these guys, coming in like Central America, and with all the surfboards, and everybody was like, "What the hell is going on?" And when they arrived to the pool, they were let's say of course the tour was for big waves and stuff, and it was like super small wave,
Yeah.
but everybody wanted to compete and win. So I'll let you know if it was Seattle, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
It's funny. You just reminded me, like, as a kid driving around, if I saw a surfboard on top of somebody's car, it was like life changing. Like we didn't even, I guess, in terms of like where I come from within surfing and like my background, like even seeing a surfboard was a big deal. So like, I always thought surfboards were just so special. So for like a whole contest to come to town and everybody having surfboards, that would have blown my freaking mind wide open.
And so how was the transition between buying surfboard for $100 in change into shaping surfboard? How did you end up?
I don't know. I think I was blind to it the whole, the whole time. I just got taken away. I mean, growing up, like I'd go to Hawaii every summer to visit my grandparents. So I'd get like a tiny little taste of surfing, like just a week or 2 or 3, or just a little bit to like make me know that it was something I really wanted to do and something that my uncle did or my dad did when he was younger. And it was just right there in my psyche, but it wasn't something I could like grasp all the time. So when it came around to moving out for college, I went straight to Santa Barbara, which I didn't know shit about. I honestly, when I moved to Santa Barbara, I didn't know what a reef break was versus a point break. Like I had no fucking concept. Like I was a full skier. Like I was full time skiing. That was my thing. And surfing was just this imaginary want and need. And the second I was in California, it was just done, like every day in the water, everything that I could soak up from people that I met, surf buddies that I got to hang out with, things I got to see. So I was in surf shops every fucking day, if not multiple shops a day. I mean, it was just gone. Like there was no there was no separation between like my daily life and my focus and surfing. And so I got to kind of just soak it up as much as I could and just kind of lose all track of reality and just kind of really honestly like lost myself into surfing and surfboards. And I really, would have been about within like 8 or 10 months, I think, of moving. I made my first board because I couldn't afford to buy all the boards I was so curious about as I learned more and more and more. And I found out that making your board was a lot cheaper. And I come from a family of people that make things a lot. And so once I put two and two together and figured out I could make my own surfboard, it was over. And then that just snowballed. It was like, yeah, it just came natural, I think.
Ah, wow! It came. So basically, nobody teaches you how to.
Oh no, no, I never had any teachers, any hands-on help. Not that I just built in my garage until I got good enough, confident enough at least to sell them, and then I started making them and selling them. And by that point, I think I had like, I don't know, I just didn't even like I said, I was so naive to all of surfing. I didn't even know that like you could go or should quote unquote go learn from somebody. I didn't know. I was just so excited and so happy to go try and do it myself. And I'm quick to pick something up if I'm really excited about it. I'm gonna just dive into it and figure it out. It took a while to get decently good at it, but I mean, within my first couple boards, it was pretty clear that it was, I would be all right at this. I think even now I look back at like the difference between my first and second board was huge, huge, huge. And then between, the second and the fourth and fifth board was massive difference in quality. And by like the 10th board, even if I made that board today, I'd be like, yeah, sick board. Like I didn't know what I know now and I didn't know how to control what I was doing, but there was a clean outline. The rocker's good. The rails are symmetrical. Everything there's legitimate and decent. And the glass job was good. And that board's still in the water almost, I think we're 18 plus years later. Like, that's a good board. So I've always been pretty confident about my stuff, but there's definitely been some weird ones too. You
Hmm,
gotta you gotta break what is it? You break a few eggs to make an omelet.
of course. That's normal, part of the life. Or even if you are an experienced one, you can still break an egg, right? So
I learn more from eggs that I break than ones that are perfect, right? Like I learn a lot when I fuck up, and I learn a little bit when I do something well. So I don't mind.
okay, interesting. And in your opinion, what is the most important thing in shaping?
Oh man, that's even harder than surfing.
We're gonna get
Most
out now.
important shaping, I don't know. I think to have a reason to do it, to be doing it for a reason, whether that reason is because you can't help but do it and you have to do it or you're driven to do it, or somebody asked you to do it, or because you need to do it to pay your bills or anything, but to have a reason, like
Okay.
the surfboards should have something behind them, something. I mean, everything does to some extent, but I just think making anything that doesn't need to be made for some reason is wasteful. And I would rather not create waste. But I mean, just to have an intention and a reason when you're going into making it. And if that reason is just to go fuck around and have fun and drink some beers with your buddy while you make it in your garage, awesome. Like that's great energy to have in a surfboard. I don't know. I think probably pretty close to my same answer about surfing. Just make sure you're enjoying it. Make sure there's intention behind it.
It works, and question that I ask, actually I learned from all the shapers that I interviewed is like, why you shaping? Are you blasting music out loud, or
Yeah.
are you listening to the sound of the shaping? Are
I'm
you
sure everyone does it different, but I'm blasting music as loud as my headphones will go.
okay?
I when I was when I started listening to music shaping, I started using it to like block out the sound.
Okay.
And so I always had it loud and then I got really used to that. And to me, it really helps me like tune out and not think too much and just enjoy my time and keep moving. Because if you're actually legitimate like production shaping and you're doing 3, 4, 5 boards a day by hand, like no CNC, you like you need some help. Like good music. I know guys that listen to podcasts. I know guys that listen to nothing at all. I do, though, make sure that I can hear my tools, at least the planer over the music, at least to some certain extent. If I can't hear the planer at all, like I'm missing something, like you need to, at least the way that I shape, there's some sounds and noises and feelings through the planer and mostly sound that tell me exactly what's going on.
Okay.
If I'm hitting what I'm trying to hit or not, or if I'm taking too much off, or if I'm straining the tool too much. Because I also shape with a pretty heavy hand. Like I'm not real like light touch with it. So I can tend to push harder than my planer wants me to. So it's nice to be able to listen to it to know when it's about to explode. That's
One
so
thing
far so good.
One thing is listening, the other, so far so good. One thing is listening, the other one is feeling, right, with the hands.
Yeah.
And okay, fine. And you hand shape all your surfboard, and this thing is super rare in today's world, right? Because
Mm.
we have a lot of computer shaping, we have a lot of help through technology. Um,
Right.
is a choice that came natural to you because at the end, as you said, my family are they like to
Mhm.
craft thing, or is why you have this choice that is not common, let's say, in the world of shaping today?
You know, I don't know. I'm trying to like really dig into to think about how I want to answer that. I mean, it really boils down in the end. Like I really love shaping. Like the act of actually shaping a surfboard by hand is so fun for me that if I were to like tune that out of my life, I'd be missing like something that matters to me as much as surfing does. The act of building a surfboard to me is equal as going surfing, if not more important. I mean, it's it's really like core to I think my creative like I don't know the word, but it's the part of me that needs to make stuff. Like that's the stuff that I make, and I need to do it. So for me, it would be really easy a long time ago to switch to the machine, and most guys my age already did 10 years ago. And it's business wise, it's much smarter. It's a lot easier on your body, but to me, it's not nearly as entertaining. And for me, so much of the value of my job is the entertainment that I get from it personally and the connection to that product. And with machine shaping, I'll speak for myself. I don't feel that connection nearly as much. And I'd be really surprised if any shaper that's fluent in hand shaping that actually understands it would say any different. I think there's a lot of shapers that shape on the machine full time and don't know how to hand shape proficiently and efficiently, to where hand shaping for them is probably a lot of guesswork and really frustrating.
Mm.
And I could see them not enjoying hand shaping. I get that. I think there's something really inherently valuable about making something with your hands for somebody else, right? Like that's what humans have done for a very, very long time. And there's something special in that back and forth and that connection. And yeah, I really enjoy all of that.
Like, of course, there is a huge discussion around hand shaping and machine or computer shape. Obviously,
Mhm.
each one has a different position. I try to respect all of them. Me personally, I am a classic guy, so hand shaping 100%.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, for the multiples that the industry reach, it would be almost impossible to have like all these surfers, in the world having hand-shaped surfboards. And I also interviewing some of the legends of legendary shapers, let's say, or people that have do this profession for 40, 50, 60 years. They tell me, Alessandro, sometimes when you are old, a little bit from the machine, because standing all day you
Yeah.
could really do, you
I
know.
mean, that's really real too. And also from a quality perspective, I've seen a lot of stuff from older shapers that are super legendary and super respectable that don't have the vision that they used to or the energy that they used to make something really, really clean. And you can end up getting an inferior product by hand shaping if you're not able to do it. It really does take a lot of physical energy to do it correctly. And I mean, that's not to knock anybody. Like, we're all going to get old. Sure. I mean, that's the thing. For me, like, my stance, I've been definitely like one of the loudmouths about hand shaping versus machine shaping for a long, long time. And to me, what it really comes down to is just transparency and honesty in your product. Because go ahead, make a surfboard on a machine. That's fine. If that's what you believe in and that's what you want your name on, fine. Go nuts. Like, good. That's awesome. Like, I have Love Machine. Those have my name on them. It's my design. I'm not saying I shaped it, but it's my design. And I mean, that's just what the product is, but I want it to be transparent and I want people to know what they're buying versus when they're buying a hand shape of mine. The price is different. The logos are different. It's a whole different LLC. It's everything.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys out there that get touted as hand shapers, in my same age group that, are quote hand shapers and quote craftsmen and all this stuff, but they are absolutely making boards on the machine. But every photo of them is them holding a planer on the website. It says hand shaped. Everything is about shaping by hand, but what you're actually buying is not. And that's where I get like pretty ruffled. Like, I just kind of, I don't know. I don't come, like I said, like, I don't come from inside of surfing and I don't come from a really like financially deep background. So if you're charging somebody $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 for a surfboard and you're relaying that it's a handcrafted thing, well, you've got to respect that person's dollar and actually give them what you're selling them with the words that you're using. And I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for people that want to pay anybody to make a fucking surfboard, right? Like, what a privilege. So you've got to respect that
that
side of it too, and give them what they think they're getting. Yeah,
definitely sounds like a bit of a cheating if you obviously pretend to do one shape and then you don't. And
it's tough. It's tough because the marketing of hand shaping, or the romanticism of shaping by hand, is so potent within surfing and so deep in the culture of what we do, that it's almost impossible that, I mean, you can say handcrafted, which technically, even if a surfboard is shaped on a CNC, you still have to glass it and you still have to hand finish it. There's a lot of hand crafting going on. So yeah, you can say it was handcrafted, but people generally assume that that means hand shaped because the vision of building a surfboard in everyone's mind is somebody hand shaping. So it's this really weird gray area. I think, what was it? Brock Jones called it greenwashing, or no, hand washing. That's what hand washing, kind of like greenwashing for environmentalism, but hand shaping and hand washing. And it's really interesting, like, to be on the shaper industry side of it and know things about guys' operations, and then looking at how they present it is really heavy sometimes. And it can be really frustrating. And then there are a lot of guys that still do it by hand legitimately and aren't recognized for their skill, which is, that's tough.
yeah. When you were talking, I was thinking about a painter, a painter that does one painting, original, and then the one that does print of that paint, right?
Yeah.
Has to be clear that the original is the original and the printing is just like a poster or a replica of that painting. It is not unique, right? So the same.
It really is. Like, that's the comparison that I see drawn a lot, is print versus painting. And it's even harder in surfboards because that's on the right track. But in surfboards, the boards look the same in the end. You literally can't tell where a print, you can look at it and be like, oh, that's a print. Versus when you see an oil painting, you can see the textures and all the brush strokes. In a surfboard, you can't tell the difference. So all you have is the manufacturer's word and the trust of that manufacturer, as well as the price point that would help you assume, well, I must be paying for a top end product. So it can get really sticky with surfboards. But it is what it is. And a lot of people don't care either. I've asked a lot of people and made polls online and said, like, do you want to know if it's hand shaped or machine shaped, or does it matter, or is it a deal breaker? And there's a solid percentage of people that they really don't care. They just want a good surfboard and they want to go surfing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fair enough.
Good. Yeah.
Fair enough, and there is a percentage of people that they will go only for the price point, so whatever, and some of them they will go only for and shipping. But also it depends also on what you like, but also
Yeah.
depends on your level of performance.
And I would say too, and what's available to you. If you live in maybe Central America or somewhere I mean, all kinds of places. You could live in Canada and there are no talented hand shapers around, but the local guy down the street has a CNC machine and he makes good boards and they're on the machine. Well, fine, awesome. Like sometimes a really legitimately like skilled hand shaping setup, if that's what you really want, isn't available. I mean, sometimes I'll ship a board and the shipping alone is $700. That's not, I mean, that's a small amount of people in the world
Yeah.
that can do that or that want to do that. So,
Yeah.
But then again, the people that are willing to spend that much money, you also have to respect their dollar and give them what they think they're getting.
Definitely. Have you seen your shaping improve because of feedback that you received from surfers?
Yeah, definitely. I think my understanding of what I'm doing in the shaping room and the way that I'm approaching the blank and the different pieces of it, the rocker and the rails and all that. Absolutely. I mean, I spend more time in the shaping room than I do in the ocean. Personally, I think that's more a factor of how much I work than the other because we do surf quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to gain from listening to surfers and understanding what they're saying versus what and if you're gaining any new information. I do learn a lot more from my own surfing and those boards and understanding them than listening to somebody else. But there's definitely been moments where I learned something that I would never have figured out without a surfer telling me that, like with like the rabbit's foot, finless boards like that. I'm not capable of surfing those things. I don't have that gene. And so to hear them tell me about, oh yeah, in the original rabbit's foot's when you bottom turn and you spin 180 degrees and you're going backwards, the first couple ones would decelerate and lose speed because the belly and the nose. Well, I wouldn't have figured out that the boards that one, you even need to be accelerating while moving backwards. And then two, that I should address the front 4 inches of the nose to combat that. But having somebody like Ryan Birch and Cyrus Sutton give me that one piece of feedback after one session on the board completely changed the board and altered the way that it worked completely. So there's definitely, there's moments where it changes everything for sure. And there's also moments when somebody tells you something and it's so opposite of what they think they're saying that it's incredible. But it's, you just,
It's okay. Yes, because sometimes we are convinced, about we pretend like to know it all, right? And then we give feedback, and then that actually do not the board do not make the board better, and they just complicate stuff, right?
it can, I have this thought that replays in my head a lot when I'm listening to people talk about surfboards, not just my customers, but just people. And when they say, I wish that like this model from this guy had these 4 changes. And they'll be like, wings and a swallowtail and a this and a wider nose and a that. And in my head, I'm like, well, if that shaper thought that those changes would make a better surfboard all around, that's what the surfboard would be. Like the baseline surfboard that somebody is putting out there is the best version that they know how to make. Changing it super far from the original, model just because you want 17 different custom things on it usually is going to take your board away from what the shaper themselves believes to be the best possible surfboard. It's more fun for a lot of people to order all of these kind of things and feel super cared for in a custom personal way. But a lot of times you're going to end up cutting out the best parts of the design, asking for a bunch of different stuff.
Exactly. When I interview Jeff Timponi in Hawaii, he told me that there are like 51 components of surfboards, and you can twist and tweak all of them, and make completely different surfboards. So at the end, he told me like it can get very complicated, sometimes, like if you want to and they are all connected. He told me. So at the end,
Yeah.
if you change one, you have to change the other, and it goes as a sequence. So it's like a mess. So maybe if feedback is good, but too much feedback is
Yeah,
overwhelming.
you have to know which feedback to listen to and which parts to really key into to then better your your take on a design for sure.
Sadly. Another thing I was thinking, if you go in hand shaping, for surfers that have disabilities,
Yeah.
it's super important for them to have custom surfboards made according uh, to
Yeah.
their needs, rather than their desire, and so again, the industry never talks about that, but it's very important, that hand shapers, they exist beyond just like um, a person that decides to do by machine or by hand. Is also because there are different kind of need for different kind of surfers, and it's not just a matter of craftsmanship, it's a matter also of
I
serving.
think for a lot of that stuff, you end up playing with some really interesting three-dimensional curves. And a lot of that stuff for most people that are shapers, sometimes it can be a lot easier to get to the right end product by shaping it by hand than by designing it on a computer screen.
Hmm.
It's another, hand shaping is a skill, and then also creating a viable surfboard on the computer is a skill also. Like, we shouldn't overlook that. It takes a certain skill set to be able to build a surfboard on the computer and have it come out on the machine the way you saw it in your head. It's a whole different set of skills, but I think it's one that's overlooked a lot because, I don't know, some kind of stigma about machine shaping or this, that, or the other, but it's really, really real. With Love Machine, that was a big part of when I started kind of going down that road. I realized, like, wait a minute, there's people that care as much about that care about as much about machine shaping as I do about hand shaping.
No,
Like, there's people
oh yeah,
as much and more time as I have in the hand shaping into working on the machine. And I was like, those are the people that I need to find and that I want to work with. People that are legitimately passionate about what they do,
yeah.
whether it's computer or by hand.
Makes sense.
So
At the end, we go back to what you were saying at the beginning. It's like as long you do it professionally, as long you put yourself in, and it's not just like an Instagram shaper, just portraying. It's not that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a big one.
but Instagram shaper and Instagram surfer. The Instagram surfer is the one that never have like a bad wipeout or catches all perfect waves. We are all that, by the way. In a certain,
For sure.
I never had like like a scene. Rarely seen a post. I catch a shitty wave today. No. To be like always the barrow, always to be like stoke wave and whatever.
That
And
might be a good parody account. You're like the worst surfer ever.
yeah,
Probably.
it can be a good way of interacting. Like after cook of the day, it's like worst surfer ever.
Maybe make like pro of the day.
Yeah,
Or just a bunch of people like the opposite of kook of the day, but it'll be the actual kooks.
yeah. Cool. How do you see impact of innovation in shaping? I know it's a huge topic, but is there something that you care about, or you go
I,
have available and
well, I think that I think the biggest innovation that can be made is in materials and build process and environmentalism. That's something that we can and should change and keep working towards bettering. I think the whole world can do that for sure. In terms of like a new shape that's going to change the way that surfing exists, I don't think I see that happening. And maybe I'm just like one of those old guys back in the day that said, yeah, we've done it all. We've seen it all. I don't know. There's obviously different takes and different versions of this, that, and the other board that you can make. But I think even the stuff that's kind of like a remarkable surfboard of the year is really a derivative of a board that's already been done 1,000 times. It just usually has a better marketing budget. And a lot of the carbon strips and the this and that and blah, 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 you're making really minimal changes to the board overall. There's slight differences for the top number of surfers in the world, but you're really not going to alter somebody's surfing existence with an extra strip of carbon down the middle. Whether or not that strip of carbon is actually even carbon seems to be the question these days. Like a lot of stuff is just paper put in there to look like carbon, and that's wild.
Oh,
But I think innovation wise, I think in finless surfing, we'll see some crazy stuff happen. I think we've already seen a lot of crazy stuff happen, but I think there's got to be more coming, especially backside finless. Hasn't really been like super mastered or at least mind blowing yet. But I don't know if we're gonna see like a shift in the surfing world in terms of performance, like maybe the shortboard revolution did,
yes.
in the 60s, 70s. I don't think we're in for that kind of change again. If we are, it's probably with foils, and that's, already well underway. But I don't see that changing the average surfer that much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the most maybe the revolution that we will see is a revolution of material at a certain point. Obviously, the adoption of foam, it's too big, but technology progresses so fast that so maybe one day there is a new foam-like material that allows us to be more eco-friendly or
Yeah.
create,
Yeah. I know there's a lot of really, really brilliant minds working on it. But I don't think we've found it just yet. Well, I know we haven't found it just yet because I mean, maybe the answer is in 3D printing somewhere in there. I have one friend of mine who's working at Berkeley. He's a student there and he's working on a project about 3D printing like bio content foam, basically. So like mushroom and algae foam that's 3D printed into shape. I mean, when he told me that the first time, I was like, wait, what? Like,
yes.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Okay.
But to think that, like, okay, so if you start wrapping your head around that, like, yeah, that could legitimately change how surfboards are made. If you could 3D print them with an environmentally friendly material that was natural and they came out equally as good and performance worthy as any board that we have now, like, fuck yeah, the industry would change.
Yeah.
Surfboards are really labor intensive and really material intensive and really toxic. And that's something that, especially if a big company can see a better margin on their product, they'll shift it immediately away from what we're doing. But I mean, obviously, that's a big change. But I mean, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen in our lifetime.
Yeah. I think we, at a certain point, you will, like in anything in the world in technology. And if you want to have fun, I suggest to listen to the podcast that I've done with Christenson when he
Uh-huh.
was talking about some guys from NASA that came to his shipping bay and brought to him some like innovative product that ended up not to be to destroy surfboard rather than to make surfboard. Is very fun the way he's describing it. So
I'll
if you
check it out.
have, you can look at the episode. It's quite fun. I had a good time listening to this. Sometimes innovation doesn't really work, right? So it's trying
And
another way.
you end up at a really different conclusion than you thought you were seeking.
Exactly. So we're almost at the end of our interview. Just like the last question before a short Q&A. Today, what are you focusing all your energy on? Is it a specific project, a new project, or is just like a business as usual and you do things?
I don't know. I think being self-employed, it's never really business as usual. There's always something. No, I'm really enjoying shaping for friends and especially people that challenge me to shape um stuff that I'm not super comfortable or super fluent shaping, and by that I mean stuff that like like super big like guns and stuff like that, like 10-foot guns. Like that's not a realm that I've shaped hundreds and hundreds of boards in, like mid lengths and short boards and other stuff. So it's really fun to challenge myself in that direction for sure. But that's probably where I'm most excited to shape right now is if I have a something really that's going to push my boundaries and my limits of like understanding somewhere where I want to know more and I want to learn and where every board that I'm shaping is less of like a known quantity and more of like what can I learn while shaping this board and what will it teach me when it's in the water. That's the stuff that keeps me really interested. I feel like it as a shaper, if you don't have that stuff going on somewhere in the background of what you're doing, you've probably lost a lot of the joy part of what you're doing because that should be the cause I think of anyone's shaping is to keep getting uncomfortable and learning and adapting.
Yeah, it keeps you alive in a certain way, right?
Yeah, I think as a creative, like it's. I mean, you've got to have that flowing in some aspect. I mean, you have to run your business and you have to pay your taxes and you have to do all this stuff, but you've got to keep checking back in with that creative side of you and keep that moving.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go for the short Q&A session. So please answer the first thing that comes up to your mind.
Oh boy,
The best surfboard that you ever rode.
ever. Probably the 8-1 that I still ride right now. It's a 8-1 FM, like kind of twin mid-length, step uppy mid-length thing.
Okay. Favorite surfer of all time.
My wife.
Okay. You keep it at home, huh? Plus, tonight you're sure that you will not sleep on the couch, right? Because after this answer,
Oh, I don't know. There's no promises in marriage.
exactly.
There's plenty of hours left in the day to blow it somehow.
Personal question: favorite song or kind of music?
Oh man. If I had to sum it up, probably classic rock is the way to probably like wrap it into a bow. I go down like really big rabbit holes with music where I listen to like one album or one artist over and over and over for like a couple years. So like it's weird, but I really like it. So I mean, there's been big phases. Bob Dylan, Steely Dan, Paul Simon, Mark Knopfler, all kinds of stuff.
You listen to
Well,
one album over and over again because you want to understand how decided the sequence of the songs, or
I really like that and the way that an artist puts together the way that their album flows and the energy that works through it. And if I put an album on while I'm shaping, like I get taken for that ride. I guess that's part of it. I also like to really I like to understand at least to the best that I can, like the context that work was made in. So like what they might be referencing in the outside world or what they might be referencing in their own life in each different song. So it takes me a while to kind of understand and learn what they're talking about a lot of times. But I think a lot of it is just like when I'm shaping, I don't really stop shaping. If I have to stop shaping, like it feels unnatural and it's hard for me to focus on something else. Like if I'm in my shaping mode, like I just want to keep moving. So I'm not like shuffling playlists and thinking about what I want to listen to. I just want to flick it on and disappear for a couple hours.
okay.
So it's easy to let that album just run through and then run through again and then run through again. And I think that's how that developed for me.
I like to listen to all albums as well, especially the old rock, classic rock albums, but I don't do for 2 years consecutively. So
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just like I'm going shaping and I'm like ready to start and the tools are ready to go. The blank is there. I know what I'm making and I just need to put my headphones on and start. So the less thinking I can do, the better. So a lot of times I just pick up and I know, okay, that's what I've been listening to. Just play it again. It works. I don't know. It works.
favorite surf spot?
No answer.
Must be
I'm not gonna go there. No, I enjoy a lot of waves. Right points. Like that's where I exist, right point breaks.
I don't want to get you in trouble with the next one, but favorite shaper of all time.
Favorite shaper of all time. Oh man. Let me put a little bit of thought into that. I think I'd have to put it on Jerry Lopez. I think that there's a lot to his shaping that the general surfer that knows his name doesn't understand or doesn't know or doesn't realize, and the genius of what he puts together on his average board, even if it's just a small wave thruster or something like that. When you look at one of his boards, I can't disagree with anything he puts into them. And I think he's walked a good path as a human, and he does good things, and his boards just, they feel right to me. Everything's in the right place.
Okay, good answer.
And on top of that, his finish work is second to none. I mean, so they're interesting boards, and they're shaped to like such a fine level that they're just incredible. They're fantastic. It's a lot more than I think the average person, even that reveres Jerry, would understand. You'd really have to shape and then look at his stuff and be like, oh shit, like this guy's a real deal.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when you see it from the eyes of colleague, let's say,
Yeah.
things than just traditional surfer. The last question is a little bit unusual, but anyway, since you said that your favorite surfer is your wife, now you have to tell me your best relationship advice.
The best relationship advice: go surfing with your wife. That's the best. Go surfing with your wife, as long as they enjoy it, I guess. If they hate surfing, then maybe don't do that.
Yes, definitely.
My wife and I surf together very consistently, and it's really nice time together. We don't surf, like, we don't sit next to each other the whole session or anything, but like if I just got a wave and I'm paddling back out and I watch her drop into a balm off of the corner she likes to sit in, like that's one of my favorite moments ever, is to watch her get a sick wave. Like I'd rather sit in the water and not get a wave and watch her get a couple sick ones than get good ones myself. Like I really, really enjoy that. So if as a surfer you can have that in your relationship, that's pretty special.
That's true love.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool. Thanks a lot for being on the show with me today. I look forward to you.
Thanks for asking.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!